but when I found a sedative capsule hidden inside, I realized she wasn't just trying to be a doting aunt. She was hunting us. The nightmare only deepened when she revealed she had proof of a crime I don't remember committing, forcing me to decide just how far I'd go to protect my family from a monster wearing my own skin. It started with the cookies. They were sitting on our granite island, wrapped in a translucent cellophane bow, smelling faintly of almond extract and something else, something metallic, like a coin held too long in a sweaty palm. My sister-in-law, Elena, had dropped them off while I was in the backyard hanging laundry. She'd left a note in that loopy, aggressive script of hers. For the little ones, they've been working so hard in school, they deserve a treat. I stared at the tray. Elena and I have been locked in a Cold War for 3 years, ever since I politely suggested that her career in life coaching didn't justify her constantly belittling my parenting choices at family dinners. Since then, she'd been the picture of passive-aggressive martyrdom, always trying to win the kids over with expensive gifts or unsolicited advice. But she never brought homemade food. Never. I was about to toss them in the trash, partly because I'm a health nut, mostly because I didn't trust her, when my 7-year-old, Leo, sprinted into the kitchen. He was followed closely by my 5-year-old, Sophie. They were ravenous, as they always were after soccer practice. Before I could intercept, Sophie's small fingers were already reaching for the cellophane. "Wait," I said, my voice sharper than I intended. They froze, looking at me with wide, confused eyes. "But Mommy, Auntie Elena said we could have them," Leo protested, his hand hovering over a chocolate chip cookie that looked slightly deformed, as if it had been handled too much. I felt a strange, cold prickle at the base of my neck. I looked at the tray again. There were exactly 6 cookies. Elena knew I had 2 children. It was a bizarre, uneven number for a gift. I grabbed the tray, shielding it from their reach. "These look a little old, honey. I'm going to check them. Why don't you two go watch cartoons in the living room?" They groaned, but they obeyed. Once they were out of earshot, I took one of the cookies to the sink. I didn't know why I did it. Perhaps it was the lingering scent of that metallic tang, or perhaps it was the sheer audacity of Elena trying to play the doting aunt after the scene she caused at my daughter's birthday party last month. I took a knife and broke the cookie open. Inside the dough, near the center, was a tiny, pale blue shard. It wasn't chocolate. It wasn't a nut. I took a pair of tweezers from the junk drawer and fished it out. It was a fragment of a capsule, the kind used for heavy-duty sleep aids or potent prescription sedatives. My hands began to shake, and I felt the blood drain from my face so quickly that the kitchen spun. I carefully set the shard on a paper towel and went back to the tray, dissecting every single cookie with the precision of a surgeon. By the time I reached the 5th cookie, I wasn't just nervous, I was terrified. In every single one, there was a hidden cache of white, powdery residue. I grabbed my phone, my breath hitching in my throat. I needed to call the police, but then I saw a notification pop up on my lock screen. It was a text from Elena, sent 2 minutes ago. "Did they like the surprise yet? I'm parked down the street, waiting to see how they feel." I looked out the kitchen window, scanning the quiet suburban street, and my heart stopped dead in my chest. Parked 3 houses down, hidden in the shadows of an oak tree, was Elena's silver SUV, its engine idling, the exhaust plume swirling in the crisp air like a ghost. She was watching the house. And then, she lifted a phone to her ear. My phone buzzed against the marble countertop like a trapped insect. I didn't answer it. My heart was hammering against my ribs, a frantic, uneven rhythm that made it hard to breathe. I moved away from the window, keeping low, my eyes locked on that silver silhouette down the street. Why was she waiting? Why wasn't she coming to the door to gloat? Then, the realization hit me like a physical blow. She wasn't waiting to see if they liked the cookies. She was waiting for the symptoms to start. She was waiting for my children to stop breathing. I snatched the paper towel containing the blue plastic shards and the residue-covered cookies, shoving them into a heavy-duty freezer bag. I needed to act, but every instinct was screaming at me to lock the house down. I ran to the living room, grabbing Leo and Sophie by their hands. "We're going for a ride," I said, trying to keep my voice steady, though my tone was so brittle it felt like it might shatter. "But we haven't had the cookies yet," Sophie complained, pulling back. "We're going to get ice cream instead," I lied, my voice wavering. "Something better." As I bundled them into the back seat of my car, I caught a glimpse of movement in the neighbor's driveway. Elena's SUV had shifted. She was pulling out, rolling slowly toward my house. I didn't wait for her to get close. I slammed my car into reverse, tires spinning on the pavement as I tore out of the driveway, forcing her to swerve onto the neighbor's lawn to avoid a collision. "Mommy, you're driving scary," Leo shouted from the back. I ignored him, my eyes glued to the rearview mirror. Elena wasn't backing down. She corrected her steering, her headlights flashing high beams into my mirror, blinding me. She was accelerating. She was chasing us. My hands were slippery with sweat on the steering wheel. I took a sharp left, then a right, darting through the labyrinth of the suburbs, trying to lose her. She kept pace with terrifying precision, never falling back, never speeding ahead. She was just hunting. I reached for my phone to call 911, but the screen was dead. Black. I had charged it only an hour ago. I tapped the screen, panicked, until a message flickered to life, bypassing my lock screen entirely. It was a photo. It was a picture of my living room, taken from inside my house, showing the exact spot where I had been standing just moments ago. The timestamp was from 5 minutes ago. Beneath it, a single line of text. "I knew you'd find the blue ones, but did you find the ones I put in their juice boxes this morning?" The blood in my veins turned to ice. My children had finished their juice boxes an hour ago. I slammed on the brakes, pulling onto the shoulder of the main road, the engine sputtering. I whipped around to face the back seat. Sophie was rubbing her eyes, her movements sluggish, her head lolling against the headrest. "Sophie! Sophie, baby, look at me!" I screamed, unbuckling my seatbelt and lunging into the back. Her skin was pale, almost gray, and her eyes were fluttering, losing focus. Beside her, Leo was staring at his hands as if he didn't recognize them, his speech slurred and slow. "Mom, the juice tastes like pennies," he whispered, before his head fell back against the seat. In the distance, I heard the wail of a siren, but it was too far away. Behind me, the crunch of gravel signaled that Elena had pulled up directly behind my car. Her door opened, the click of her heels on the asphalt sounding like gunshots in the silence. She wasn't running. She was walking with a calm, predatory grace. I grabbed my bag of evidence and reached for the car door handle, ready to fight for my life. But as I pulled the latch, I realized the locks were stuck. They had been engaged from the outside, a manual override. Elena reached my window and tapped on the glass. Her face was calm, her expression one of mild, disappointed concern. She held up her own phone, and the screen displayed my home security system's control panel. She tapped a button, and the car's hazard lights blinked once, twice, a signal. "You always were so reckless with your children's health, Sarah," she said, her voice muffled by the glass, but perfectly audible in the dead air. "It's a good thing I'm here to fix your mistakes. You have no idea what's been happening in this house while you were distracted, do you?" She leaned in, her eyes locking onto mine, and placed a small silver key against the window pane. "Check the trunk," she whispered. My lungs felt as though they were filled with broken glass. I looked at the trunk, then at my children, then back at Elena, who stood on the other side of the safety glass like a shark circling a cage. "Open the car," I hissed, my voice barely a tremor. "Elena, I swear to God, if they die, I will tear you apart." She didn't flinch. She just tapped the silver key against the glass again, a rhythmic, maddening tink, tink, tink. "They aren't going to die yet, Sarah. Not while you're still useful to me. Open the trunk, or I trigger the engine kill switch remotely. We're in the middle of a dead zone, and there isn't a signal for miles. Do you really want to be trapped in a metal coffin with them while they drift off? I looked at the back seat. Sophie's breathing had slowed to a terrifying rhythmic rasp. Leo was barely conscious, his eyes fixed on a point in space that didn't exist. The sheer panic clawing at my throat was eclipsed only by the cold, calculating need to survive. I realized then that she wasn't just a bitter, jealous sister-in-law. She had been planning this for months. She had the access, the chemistry, and the sheer sociopathic patience to execute it. I hit the trunk release button. The mechanism groaned and popped open. "Get out," Elena commanded, stepping back. I scrambled out of the car, my legs shaking so violently I almost collapsed. I ran to the back of the SUV, my hands trembling as I lifted the heavy trunk lid. I expected to find more poison, more evidence of her twisted plans, or maybe even a weapon. I didn't find any of those things. Inside the trunk, surrounded by blankets and what looked like a tactical kit, was a manila folder taped to a small, portable recording device. Beneath it lay a stack of photographs. I grabbed the folder, my vision blurring, and flipped it open. The first page wasn't a list of chemicals or a manifesto. It was a police report. My police report. The one from 6 years ago, when my husband accidentally died in that hit and run on the way home from work. I froze. The paper felt like lead in my hands. The report stated that the driver was never found, that the case had gone cold due to lack of evidence. But the photo clipped to the back of the page made my blood stop circulating entirely. It was a shot of my husband's car, the night of the accident. And there, standing in the periphery of the frame, caught by a low-resolution security camera from a gas station across the street, was a woman. The angle was grainy, but the silhouette was unmistakable. The coat, the posture, the way she held her head. It was me. I looked down at the next photo. It was a shot of my own hand, from an angle I didn't recognize, holding a glass of wine, the same wine my husband had been drinking the night he died. I felt the air leave my lungs. I didn't remember this. I remembered the funeral, the grief, the years of struggling to be a single mother. I remembered nothing of that night. "You thought you buried it deep, didn't you, Sarah?" Elena's voice was right behind my ear now. I spun around, the folder clutched to my chest. She was inches away, a cruel, triumphant smile plastered across her face. "You've spent years playing the grieving widow, the perfect mother, the victim. But you're not a victim. You're just like me. And now, the police are going to find out exactly what you did to your husband." I stammered, but the words died in my mouth. "Oh, but you did," she whispered, pulling a small remote from her pocket. She pointed it toward my car. "And the poison in the cookies? It wasn't to kill them. It was to induce a drug screen-worthy coma. The doctors are going to find high concentrations of sedatives in their blood. Sedatives that you, their loving mother, have been stockpiling for months." I looked toward the car. A red light on the dashboard was flashing, and the faint sound of a siren, this one real, was growing louder on the horizon. "They're coming for you, Sarah," Elena laughed, a sound devoid of any joy. "And when they open that trunk and find these photos and your evidence, there won't be a soul on earth who believes you're the one who was poisoned." She stepped back, backing toward her own SUV. "Oh, and one more thing. Check the very bottom of that folder. You might want to see who I've been working with since the funeral." I pulled the last sheet of paper from the folder, and my heart shattered into 1,000 jagged pieces. It was a signed witness statement, dated yesterday. It was written by my own son, Leo. The world tilted on its axis. My eyes locked onto the document. Witness statement, Leo Miller. It was written in a clean, legible hand, detailing a series of confessions I had supposedly made to him in the dead of night while he pretended to be asleep. It spoke of my husband's death as an accident I meant to happen, and described my secret, bitter resentment toward the children who stole my youth. It was a masterpiece of manufactured trauma, a poison pill designed to strip me of my legacy and my freedom. The sirens were deafening now. 2 cruisers crested the hill, their light bars painting the dark, desolate road in rhythmic slashes of blue and red. Elena didn't flee. She stood by her SUV, a picture of calm, reaching into her pocket to pull out a handkerchief. She began to dab at her eyes, her posture shifting from predatory to pathetic in a heartbeat. She was setting the stage for the officers. "They're almost here," I whispered to myself, the cold clarity of a cornered animal settling over me. I looked at the folder in my hands, then at the recording device Elena had left in the trunk. My fingers flew to the playback button. Click. There was a hiss of static, then the sound of 2 voices. One was Elena's, sharp and triumphant. The other was mine. But I hadn't said those things. It was a digital composite, a terrifyingly accurate AI reconstruction of my own voice, pieced together from thousands of hours of my social media videos and home movies. It was a confession I had never made, recorded with the clarity of a studio session. I turned to the trunk and saw something I'd missed in my panic, a hidden compartment under the liner, housing a small, flickering micro router. She wasn't just gaslighting me. She was broadcasting a live feed to a secure server. This wasn't just a trap. It was a public execution of my